So good morning, students. Welcome to another GES 151 class. And I'll be the one anchoring the lecture for today, and I'll be treating the topic Introduction to Nutrition and Food Science. I will be sharing a slide later on, which you will get my other informations on, and you can easily contact me for further questions. So to start with, we would start from what is food. Food is a biological complex material that is ingested to assist in building the body capacity to function properly. And there are 6 classes of food, namely the carbohydrates, protein, fats, vitamin, mineral, and water. And these classes are subdivided also into 2 classes, namely the macronutrients and the micronutrients, where you have the carbohydrate, fat, and protein as the macronutrients, which are meant to be consumed in large quantity, while the vitamin minerals are the micronutrients, which are meant to be consumed in minute quantity. And water should be taken without being thirsty. As a matter of fact, you're expected to take at least 8 glasses of water per, even whether you've eaten or not eaten, as the case may be. So to start with the lecture for today, I would like us to just run through some few information. The first thing we're meant to understand about food science and the nutritional aspect of food science is the food pyramid, which helps us identify the food groups people should combine in order to make a balanced diet. Food groups at the top of the pyramid should be eaten in moderation, while those at the bottom of the pyramid should be eaten in larger amounts. Like I said earlier on, food is made up of mostly edible biochemicals, which are mainly derived from living sources such as your plants and animal, but not all plants are edible, and not all animal are meant to be consumed, depending on food fads or religious beliefs, as the case may be. So, and food helps us to build the capacity to by providing energy and other nutrients necessary for normal growth, development, repair, and replacement of worn-out tissues. Remember, uh, protein is the building block of any body system, and the food we eat per time contributes to the replenishment and the vitality of the body system. Now, some foods, most especially the macronutrients, are eaten in order to maintain balanced diet. And these are selected from a variety of food and drinks from all food groups. It also means eating certain food in small amounts, namely the saturated fats, the simple sugar, the salt, and alcohol. And the goal is to take all of the nutrients you need for health at the recommended level, perhaps if you are restricted for health reasons. And that will be susceptible to you consulting physicians or nutritionists or dietitian, as the case may be. Now, the nutritional part of food science consists the nutrition and the science of food, including the food system, sustainability, and the global and national food policy that assist us to ensure that you're eating the appropriate thing according to the RDA, recommended daily allowances recommended by WHO and the FAO. Now, additionally, this also allows you learn cultural cuisines that varies even in Nigeria. In this end, the way food are consumed in the western part is varied from the way it is consumed in the south and varied from the way it is consumed in the northern part of Nigeria, and they have their own peculiarity to nutrition and food science, as the case may be. Now, we are meant to understand what also are the functions of food scientists and food technologies. And one of their function, amongst many others, includes food scientists help in developing palatable, nutritious, low-cost food to meet the nutritional needs of various group of people. These various group of people include the working age brackets from 18 to 45. Now, depending on health conditions, diets might change from old age starting from 45 upwards. And mind you, below 18 to their recommended food to hasten the growth of a child to become a toddler, to become an adolescent, and undergo puberty before being a young adult. More importantly, we're meant to consider foods for the vulnerable, the pregnant women, and the diseasing people. Their diets are what we call the diet therapy. They are modified diets. It is not like the normal diet. And the food scientists work hand in hand with nutritionists and dietitians to ensure that all these factors are understood and food is being given accordingly to each and everyone in the way it is preferred. The food scientists are also involved in improving existing food products and the development of new ones to meet the demand of consumers for new and different products by altering the nutrients constituents of food, particularly by reducing the caloric content, because now there are various modifications people are fond of doing from the regular time past. Even now, like a considerable considerable factor into taking solid food. It is meant to be recooked so that it is well modified and easily digestible. And these are one of the functions that food scientists bring into play to ensure that food is wholesome and food has the proper fortification or enrichment to meet creativity and sustainability. Food processing technology is also applied in the design and operation of food processing equipment, and this include the use of automated equipment. Now you see on the go, people can take their smoothie on the go, people can make some modified food on the go just for convenience, not having to extensively use your kitchen to achieve all these things. And these are one of the few functions that food scientists, in collaboration with food technologists and nutritionists, bring into play to ensure that food is readily available for the general populace. In addition, we need to understand that food preservation is the hallmark of any food production, and it is a major activity the food scientists carry out, especially for seasoned agricultural products. Food scientists also have the goal of making food as safe as possible at all times, in all ways, whether it is packaged, whether it is exposed, whether it is a fruit you are meant to consume without having to reprocess or recook or remodify. And food scientists also endeavor to bring in new techniques and products emerging from the field of genetic engineering and biotechnology, with advances from recombinant DNA technology and related methods to provide improved new enzymes to increase yields and cut cost the loss of fermentation for industries that engage in such practices. In addition, food scientists are involved in establishing international food standards to promote and facilitate world trade, and at the same time assure the wholesomeness and the value of food purchased between nations. The range of pesticide level vary from country to country, and if there's a unification by virtue of consultancy and inter uh, connectivity between food science from Africa to the Western world, we can have a strict balance so that there will be encouragement of our local dishes exchange for the foreign dishes without having anything to do on our health or impeding our health and subjecting us to an extreme health conditions. And one of the facilitating bodies in Nigeria are the NAFDAC and other supporting agencies that ensure they are working hand in hand with international society to ensure food is wholesome and readily available for consumption, whether you are in Africa, whether you are in the Europe or the Asia or the American continent. Also, food scientists work in conjunction, like I've been mentioning, with nutritionists to develop standard for the optional nutrients of food diet and to determine how food processing and storage affect nutrients. And this is a very, very important factor of food preparation. There are times the preparation method will entail that you check one thing we bring into question: shelf life, how long this food is going to spend, which is determined by the expiry date. And I would like to encourage you, my students, to ensure that whenever you're buying a processed product, the first thing, besides the interest to take the product, check the expiry date, check the confirmation of the product as is seen in the advert. Is it the same way you've seen it where you bought it from a stall, from a mall, as the case may be, so that you can ascertain that what you are consuming is wholesome and very, very healthy to be eaten by yourself, so that you don't have an impediment on your health, as the case may be. Now, I would like us to define what nutrition is. What nutrition is. Pardon. Nutrition is defined as the process by which an animal or plant takes in and utilizes food substance. Essential nutrients include the protein, the carbohydrates, the fat, the vitamin, mineral, and electrolytes. I mentioned 6 classes earlier on before we got into the basics of the class. And normally it is required that 85% of daily energy use is from fat and carbohydrates, while 15% should be from the protein to strike a proper balanced diet. Now, food and nutrition are a way we get fuel. Fuel is food for the body system. To provide energy for our body, we need to replace nutrients in our body with new supplies every day, except in conditional situations where you are engaging in fasting or you are dieting, as the case may be. And we need to replace these nutrients on a daily basis. Whatever it is you're doing, you need to refuel so that you don't go into fatigue. The basics of most sickness or ailment is lack of balanced diet. And when you can do this properly, efficiently, not in quantity, but in quality, you're sure to have a good immune system. And water is very important in nutrition, as well as the macronutrients I mentioned earlier on and the micronutrients. And the essence of nutrition is to study nutrients in food and how the body uses it. The way the body uses it is what we call the metabolic process, and the relationship between diet, health, and disease, which is a very, very important factor. Like I mentioned earlier on, the basis of all ailments starts from what have you eaten? Are you eating the proper diet? Are you consuming the proper food per time? Is it not impeding your health? Is it not affecting your immunity? So you need to check all those things. What goes for the party A might not be what is suitable for party B. So you need to actually understand, consult, and know what is appropriate for you. Because when you look at it one way or the other, individual to individual, we all have what we call food allergies. While some people have food fat, which is based on religious beliefs. So it is very, very important you look at what is suitable for you before you consume, so that you are not having allergic conditions or reaction. Nutritionists also use the idea of molecular biology, biochemistry, and genetics to understand how nutrients affect the human body. And this is where we observe the relationship between food, nutrition, and medicine and pharmaceutical science, as the case may be, because there's always an interaction even from the food we eat. Food is the first medicine before whatever it is you have your supplements or your uh, other bulkness that you use as drugs, as the case may be. In addition, we need to understand that when you don't take the proper diet, you're susceptible to malnutrition. And malnutrition is a state of impaired functional ability or development caused by an inadequate intake of essential nutrients or conditions. And this is what leads to malnutrition. And if I could take you back into your secondary school or your primary school, you can remember what we call the cases of kwashiorkor, beriberi, and these things are associated to diet. And there are some other conditions like the goiter, the anemic conditions, the vitamin deficiency, where you have deficiency for particular vitamins because each vitamin on its own has a peculiar function for the body. What vitamin A does is different from what vitamin K does, is different from what vitamin C does. And they have deficiencies associated with not consuming them in the way it is required in the recommended daily allowances, the RDA. And also, even a malnutrition can lead to cases of blindness and retarded growth, where you have stunted growth, which is more observable when a child is growing up, and this is irreversible as he or she grows up. And we have mental development, so not taking the adequate balanced diet might affect developmental processes, and it can impair the way a child reasons and the way a child responds to stimulus, which when he or she grows up might affect the way he responds. And there's a level of cognition you're meant to have per age bracket till you become an adult. In general, malnutrition can either be severe or moderate, depending on the cases. The severe malnutrition refers to two conditions where we talk about marasmus and kwashiorkor. And this is as a result of continuous eating of high caloric food in the early childhood. In continuity, food produces relief to hunger. Very, very important. Food produces relief to hunger. No matter how busy, no matter how preoccupied human beings are, we are meant to create time to ensure that we eat balanced diet. And in this case, it will bring relief to the body system. However, malnutrition requires treatment and rehabilitation that might be continuous to produce a long-lasting relieving effect, because it is a condition that human beings have ignorantly gotten themselves into, and it will take a longer process to rebuild the immunity to ensure that the body is fit and well in proper shape once again. Now, there are four forms again of malnutrition that exist, and one of it is undernutrition due to starvation. The number two is a specific deficiency, such as vitamin A deficiency. The third one, an imbalance of nutrients, such as lack of several amino acids. Amino acids, there are 20 amino acids there, and they have their peculiarity. And amino acids are sourced from protein, and each of the 20 amino acids has its own peculiar function to the body system. And this is why there's always meant to be a balance. When you take your high carbohydrate food, you're meant to supplement with fat and protein to ensure that the body is responding and functioning properly. The fourth one is overnutrition, which we call obesity. And obesity has its mild state and its mild state, obesity 1 and 2. In further studies, as you go to other levels, you will get to understand that this is just the introductory part of understanding food and nutrition. Okay, now we need to understand that nutritional related health problems could be divided into several categories, and this is to orientate you, educate you, besides what we need to learn to have grades. And one of it is protein deficiency, which is adequate nutrition, especially important in the first months and years of life. If this is not ensured, a growing child is going to be having deficiency for protein. That is one of the health-related problems in nutrition. Now, the second one is chronic energy deficiency. Individuals who are chronically deprived of sufficient caloric intake must reduce their activities, their physical activities, because there is meant to be a proper balance of energy intake with physical activity to calculate your energy expenditure. And if you're taking less, you can give more, obviously. And if the activity requires doing more, you are injuring your health or depriving yourself of a good health, because the activity you're doing surpasses the energy you've ingested through food. Iron deficiency is among the widely spread of nutrient deficiency, and that is why you see most of these foods are they are fortified. They have inclusion of iron to ensure that it helps in blood production. That is why you see most times it is recommended that you take hemoglobin drugs, and hemoglobin drugs are what contains the iron supplements to produce more blood and to facilitate blood production in the body system. Vitamin deficiency is one important part of deficiency that most of us undergo, and we tend not to pay cognizance to this. And the major vitamin deficiency is vitamin A, and it is utmost that we consume food products that will ensure that we are consuming these vitamins, which brings me to the point where I will advise each and everyone to at least consume fruits in their diet, if not daily. It should be done at least 3 to 4 times in 7 days of a week to ensure that your body is responding. It is not when your body now breaks down totally, you're meant to now opt for all these fruits and energy supplementary food intake. It is meant to be done consistently so that you keep the body functioning properly. Now, I made mention earlier on of macronutrients and micronutrients, and I would just like to say a few things about both of this subdivision of classes of food. Macronutrients, pardon me, provide a lot of calories, but the amount of calorie provided varies depending on the food source. For example, each gram of carbohydrate or protein gives you 4 calories, while fat produces or gives 9 calories of each gram. That means you can easily do this calculation by yourself. If you make your eba, or you boil your rice to eat, and at the end of cooking, you weigh this food. Perhaps when you weighed your rice minus the container, it gave you 800 grams. Starch is the hallmark of any cereal. That means you're consuming carbohydrates when you take rice. Based on these factors I've given you, 1 gram of carbohydrates containing food will give you 4 calories. You can easily prepare your mathematical answer to this information I've given, based on the fact that you have 800 grams of rice, cooked rice, times 4, that will give you 3,200 calories. And on an average, you are meant to consume between 2,100 and 2,600 calories per day. Also dependent on whether you are vulnerable or whether you are pregnant, and your gender, whether you are male or a female. And you're meant to actually do energy balancing activity so that you are not just becoming obese by consuming food in excessive nature. The micronutrients, which means small, are substances which people need in their diet only in small amounts. And I mentioned earlier on, I'm just reiterating that it is just the mineral and the vitamins. Example of your mineral include your iron and your sodium, which is salt, your vitamins, the fat soluble and the water soluble. The fat soluble is your vitamin A, B, E, K, while other vitamins are the soluble one, your vitamin B complex, your uh other vitamins. And when you look at the strains of vitamin B, they are very much vitamin B1, B2, and so on and so forth. So food, as I get to conclusion, are very important requirement for growth and sustenance of man. The human body requires basic nutrients to operate at optimal health and performance level, and to take care of their body's daily functioning, including growth, maintenance, repair, and reproduction. Again, carbohydrates, protein, fat, vitamins, minerals, water, and fiber are the main groups of nutrients which together are variable in amounts to make a balanced diet. You don't consume the rates at which you consume your carbohydrates, you consume your mineral in the same nature. Remember, carbohydrates is a macronutrient, your salt, your mineral is a micronutrient. You consume them in small amounts. So they vary in amounts to make a balanced diet. Nutrients are grouped into macronutrients and micronutrients. I mentioned that earlier on. And altogether, most foods are a mixture of these nutrients. Your cassava contains all classes of food, but majorly carbohydrates, while the rest are in small amounts. Your beans contains majorly carbohydrate and protein, while the rest are in small amounts. When you get to animal protein, they contain more protein than you have carbohydrates in it. And it is in animal protein you have your amino acids complete. In your plant protein, they are not essential in totality. Okay, so foods are often grouped according to the nutrient that they contain in abundance. So obviously, if in rice, carbohydrates is the highest component, we classify it as a carbohydrate. Most times, beans is varied in between being a highly proteinous food, but mind you, it contains uh, equal amount of carbohydrate too, but it is a cheaper way of consuming carbohydrates anytime, any day. Okay, now we need to understand also that there are saturated fats and unsaturated fats. I know myopically we always want to say something that is saturated is mostly preferred, but it is knowledgeable to know that the unsaturated fat are the healthy fats, while the saturated fats are the unhealthy fats. Therefore, people need to eat more of the unsaturated fats and try to reduce their intake of saturated fats. Saturated fats most especially comes from animal. Unsaturated fat is from plants. That is why you see most of these vegetable oils, they call it vegetable oil because it's from the plant. While when you observe that a cooking oil is always solidifying, the oil is from fat, from animal. So please be observant when you buy products. When you're buying your cooking oil and it is already solid, know that the oil is from animal fat origin. But when it is liquid, even at room temperature, regardless of what the weather condition is, it is from the vegetable or plant origin. Vitamins are substances present also in small amounts in food and are very necessary for the body functioning. Vitamins are also called protective food. The minerals have a number of functions in the body, including developing body tissues and supporting metabolic process. The mineral are also important for everyday living. So whatever it is you consume, whatever it is you orientate or advise someone to eat, ensure they are consuming mineral that are in the origin of the basic ones needed for proper functioning daily: the calcium, the iron, the iodine, zinc, and fluorine, as the case may be. In order to have a healthy life and good nutritional status, it is essential for a person to eat balanced diet. I will keep saying this in and out of the class. Balanced diet. Balanced diet. Whether you're fasting, whether you are recovering from post-surgical operation, whether you're living a normal day life, whether you're into a physically demanding job or activity, most especially students, we, you, lecturers and students require eating balanced diet no matter what it entails you to get it done. It is very, very important you eat balanced diet because this is the only way to keep the body functioning and the mental reasoning in cognition properly. And you need to know the common use of food groups in order to advise people around you to know how to have a balanced diet. I know most of you ensure that you eat a balanced diet, but it is very, very important for me to reiterate and to repeat it over and over that you eat a balanced diet to maintain a good nutritional status. And that is the end of the class. If there are further questions or further inquiries you want to make, particularly to this discussion, my email and my phone number will be displayed for future contact. Thank you very much.